All right, let's go ahead and get started with the second part. Now, we let our tablet charge, our iPad charge for about 40 minutes for our 40%, so this should be more than enough power to carry us on through the rest of this video. We did grab our phone too. Right now it is 11:37, and let's get this done. Mr. Wayne is getting tired. We had a great long busy day at work. We got our workout in after work, and as we were waiting for this iPad to charge, we were listening to some music and thinking upon a lot of things. And we are going to be doing great things someday. Phenomenal things. We're going to be changing so many people's lives. We just have to keep changing our own. We just got to keep changing our own. So let's go ahead. Let's jump into it. So last thing we were talking about, he was saying you can't make broadcloth from shoddy. Okay, you have to build the mental blueprint of something great in order to manifest something great. Again, the example I use, you cannot plant an apple seed and get an orange tree. Same thing with the mind. If you plant an apple seed, you're getting an apple tree no matter what. Same thing with the mind. If you have a mental blueprint of something that you want, and you plant that seed in the soil of your subconscious mind, and you create a conscious, just strong, phenomenal mental material which you think from, you're going to be creating great things, solid things, and you're going to be a force for good in this world. Because remember, that's our goal. We're here to use our powers for good. We're here to use our abilities for good. There's enough evil and darkness in the world. We don't need more of that. We need the light. We need positivity. We need love. And we know that. We know that. You know that. And it's never too late to turn things around. It's never too late for you to change. Viewer, I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm not proud of. Right? Recovered addict, recovered alcoholic. I used to live to get high, right? Like I'd wake up in the morning, I'd want to get high. It's been years now, but that was my life at one point. That was who I was at one point. I used to sleep around with women. I used to buy sex from women back when I was younger, back when I was drinking all the time. I don't do that anymore, right? Like you can change. You have to make a decision to change. Now, I'm not proud of those days. I'm not proud of those experiences, but that's just part of my life. And I can't deny where I've been, right? I have to accept where I've been and learn from it and grow from it and change. And same thing with you. You can change. You can live. You can live for better regardless of the past you came from. Now, when it comes to people, I have hurt a lot of people. Not physically, wouldn't just go beat people up. It wasn't that kind of hurt. I've hurt people in many other ways. I hurt myself in a lot of ways. We don't have to live like that, right? We can change, and we can, regardless of our past, we can do amazing, phenomenal, great things. Like I said, I'm not proud of those things. These are things people wouldn't necessarily want to admit, but whatever. It's been my experiences, and We are here to be open and honest about our experiences. So again, back to our mental material. We can't make broadcloth from shoddy. It says this material will be brought about by millions of silent workers and fashioned into the form of the image which you have in mind. Remember, we were talking about the brain, that once you're visualizing upon that goal that you want, what you want to manifest out of that ideal. Remember, the ideal is the ultimate goal. The visualization is what you are using your imagination to create the mental pictures around that goal, seeing yourself doing what is necessary for the fulfillment of that goal, and obviously taking action towards it as well. You have to take action, because remember, action is the material. Action is the physical manifestation, while the mental is the intangible manifestation. It's the force, it is the mind, it is the creative force. What he's saying here, these millions of silent mental workers, your brain is going to respond to the vibrations of your thought, and your brain is going to in turn, through its response, create the neural pathways necessary for that habitual mental action, so to speak, because it's our habitual attitude of mind that's going to determine the results that we create, the character which we have. Now he says, think of it. You have over 5 million of these mental workers ready and in active use. Brain cells, they are called. Besides this, there is another reserve force of at least an equal number, ready to be called into action at the slightest need. Your power to think, then, is almost unlimited. And this means that your power to create the kind of material which is necessary to build for yourself any kind of environment which you desire is practically unlimited. Now, with that being said, this is necessary for you, viewer, and for me too. We have to take care of our mental health, our brain health. The quickest and best way, obviously, is to change what you're eating, change what you're consuming, but to also engage in fitness. It has been shown that when you engage in resistance training, I love resistance training, it's going to change your physiology. It's going to change the structure of your muscle. It's going to build muscle. Resistance training has a lot to do with the mental structure of your brain too, how your brain endures the pain, the process of pain, because you're forcing yourself to go through the pain of exercise. Now, it's been shown when you do cardio, you're training your heart, you're training your organs, you're training the internal states, but it's been shown by science, cardio is the quickest way to renew the structure of your brain. So when it comes to brain health, you must, yes, resistance training is an absolute must, but you have to engage in some level of cardio. So you could quicken the process, so to speak, of renewing this new mental structure which you have. That's the physiology. That's the physical action you could take when it comes to being active, right? The other action, as we're going through with this program, is simply visualizing, concentrating upon the image which you desire to create, because your brain will respond by creating the neural pathways in response to that image. In addition to these millions of mental workers, you have billions of mental workers in the body, every one of which is endowed with sufficient intelligence to understand and act upon any message or suggestion given. These cells are all busy creating and recreating the body, but in addition to this, they are endowed with psychic activity whereby they can attract to themselves the substance necessary for perfect development. Now, that's a very powerful thing to understand too, because when we know when we eat food, it goes through our digestive system. Our body breaks down the material of food into smaller material. For example, protein gets broken down into amino acids, and then from the structure of amino acids, it flows through your bloodstream and it gets sent throughout your entire body. And since it's floating in your bloodstream, your muscles, certain parts of your body are going to choose to take up those amino acids and again begin to build muscle, build protein again out of that broken down form. Same thing with carbs. Your body breaks carbs into simple carbohydrates and simple sugars. Those simple sugars goes throughout your bloodstream, and your body uses that for energy. Remember ATP in muscle contraction. Your body is using sugar and carbohydrates for muscle contraction. Protein is mainly for your muscular, for your muscle system, while the sugar and carbohydrates are what your body uses for energy itself. Now get this too, if you're not getting adequate amounts of carbs and you're on a protein diet, you're eating mainly protein, your body will legitimately go through a process known as gluconeogenesis to turn those proteins into carbohydrates for energy. Your body will legitimately turn it into something else that it needs to continue its function, right? This is the intelligence that you have inside of you. And he's saying this intelligence, right, the billions of mental workers inside of your body are also going to contribute to the manifestation of the ideal, which these millions of mental workers are striving towards creating. They do this by the same law, in the same manner that every form of life attracts to itself the necessary material for growth. The oak, the rose, the lily, all require certain material for their most perfect expression, and they secure it by silent demand, the law of attraction, the most certain way for you to secure what you require for the most complete development. So what he is telling us here, by the law of attraction, our cells are absorbing the necessary material out of our bloodstream for their growth, for their development. Just as us, as conscious beings, we will attract the things to us in the in the material world that are in accordance with the image which we have in mind, that will be pertinent towards our growth in consciousness alone. And he's calling this silent demand, right? Silent demand will be another term we're using when it comes to law of attraction, because we are silently demanding these things to come into our lives. We don't have to necessarily speak it. We have to think upon it. And through that internal process of thought, we will bring those things to us. It's silently demanding this material to be attracted to you and enter into your lives. It says, make the mental image, make it clear, distinct, perfect. Hold it firmly. The ways and means will develop. Supply will follow the demand. So thought being the demand, the law of attraction, silent demand, it's going to bring you the supplies to manifest that image. You will be led to do the right thing at the right time and in the right way. Earnest desire will bring about confident expectation, and this in turn must be reinforced by firm demand. These three cannot fail to bring about attainment, because the earnest desire is the feeling. Add some blueberries while I was waiting for this baby to charge. My apologies. He says, earnest desire is the feeling, the confident expectation is the thought, and the firm demand is the will. And as we have seen, feeling gives vitality to thought, and the will holds it steadily until the law of growth brings it into manifestation. What a very, very powerful statement. He's saying, as we said, we have to get emotional about the mental pictures that we are creating, about the ideal of which we have, because we can think of something but not act upon it, right? We usually act upon the things that we are emotional about. That's why, if you see somebody that doesn't have so much control over their emotions, or their emotions get the best of them, their behavior revolves mainly around their emotional state. And then later on, if they do something that's detrimental, later on they're reflecting on the situation. They say, I don't know why I did that. I don't know what I was thinking, because their emotional body got the best of them, right? With the conscious mental body, we create the image. We have to get emotional about that image. We have to give life and feeling to that image. As he told us in one of the prior chapters, I believe it was part 3, the subconscious being likened to the sun of the body. The sun is what gives life and energy to the body. Likewise, giving life and energy to the conscious mind. And the conscious mind being the director of these forces. The very force in life itself is going to be the feeling, it's going to be the emotion, while the thought is simply the direction in which this life force goes. And he's saying thought is the confident expectation, because we are building the image of what we want. We can expect it to come about. We cannot expect it to come about the way we think it's going to come about. Remember, let the universe work out those details. Simply have the ideal. So the confident expectation should be, or could be, the ideal, as he is telling us here, because that is the thought. And the firm demand is the will. Remember, the will, the conscious mind is the seat of the will. It's our ability and our discipline, our ability to hold the image of what we want in our mind, right, for extended lengths of time. Our ability to focus on it for an extended period of time. Again, remember the example he gave us. If we take a magnifying glass, conscious mind being the magnifying glass, the subconscious being the sunlight or the rays of the sun. If we take a magnifying glass and focus the rays of sun on a sheet of paper, through that focus, that sheet of paper is going to catch on fire. But if we're moving that magnifying glass around the paper, it's not going to catch on fire, because you're not concentrating the sunlight. Same thing with the mind. With the conscious mind, it's focusing. When you're focusing on a specific task, you are magnifying the sunlight of the conscious mind upon that specific thing. And you will burn through it. You're going to burn through the goal. You're going to reach that goal. You're going to manifest it. But you have to hold your mind on the ideal long enough for that sunlight, that energy, so to speak, the life force within you, to manifest that ideal. Feeling is vitality to thought, and the will holds it steadily until the law of growth brings it into manifestation. That is a very important thing to note too. When it comes to your manifestation, it's not something that's going to happen immediately. What will happen immediately is the first step you need to take. Remember, you need to grow into the individual necessary to manifest that complete image, that complete picture. There's a growth process involved. We all know growth can be painful. Growing pains are a real thing, not just when you're going through a growing spurt within the body, but mental growing pains are a real thing as well. Because there are many days you're not going to feel like doing the thing that you know you need to do, but you need to push through it. And that's where willpower comes in. You're going to will your way to getting it done, taking action upon it, regardless of how you feel. Is it not wonderful that man has such tremendous power within himself, such transcendental faculties concerning which he had no conception? Is it not strange that we have always been taught to look for strength and power without? We have been taught to look everywhere but within. And whenever this power manifested in our lives, we were told that it was something supernatural. There are many who have come to an understanding of this wonderful power, and who make serious and conscientious conscientious efforts to realize health, power, and other conditions, and seem to fail. They do not seem able to bring the law into operation. The difficulty in nearly every case is that they are dealing with externals. They want money, power, health, and abundance, but they fail to realize that these are effects and can come only when the cause is found. Now, that is a very important thing to really grasp too, because when you understand that you have to go and work mainly on your mental attitude, you have to work mainly with your internal states, you have to work on the cause. Remember, thought being the cause which sets these effects in motion in your life. So, what you need to focus on is your thinking the majority of the time, making sure you're thinking upon the things you want to manifest. Anything external, you cannot be barred down in your thought process by where you are in the external world. You have to think above the current environment you're in. You have to think beyond your current circumstances in order to move into higher circumstances. Remember, thought being the causative factor, you being the cause which sets higher forces in motion. You have to not let where you are externally dictate what you are going to think moment to moment. Remember, what you need to do when it comes to external, see where you are and what you need to think upon next, right? Your next goal, your next step. Think upon that next step and act from where you are now, but you're acting from the future, from the present towards the future. It's they call it reverse engineering. Right, so you could set the law in motion to get you to the next level. He's saying right here, those who are not able to set this law in motion, it's because they're mainly focused on the externals. They're too focused on where they are and not where they want to be. When it comes to where we are, you just need to identify where you currently are so you can know what actions you need to take to get to that image, to get to that next level. Right? Don't deal so much with externals. Deal mainly with the internal process, which is your thinking. Again, if you want money, what causes money to come into your life? It's service. So how can you focus more on giving better and greater service to your people? Providing more valuable service to your society. Focus on the service. The money will take care of itself. Same thing with power. Right? If you want power, focus on the thing that will bring you more power instead of trying to gain power itself. The power will come on its own. What you need to do is to move into a consciousness of power. Remember, we become what we think about. So the focus needs to be on developing a consciousness of power. And again, since we're talking about power, it's using that power for good. He opens up this entire system with consciousness. Remember, if you want health in your life, you have to develop a health consciousness. You have to think from the viewpoint of health by understanding the principles of health. If you want to gain a power consciousness, you have to think from the viewpoint of power by thinking from, or you have to think from the consciousness of power by thinking from the principles of power. We just talked about health right now. Same thing with abundance. And it's understanding that, hey, you are already abundant. Nature itself is abundant. There are no limitations to what nature can create and what God can create, the forms of what this infinite mind can manifest. Through that understanding, you need to know that, hey, you are already abundant. So you need to think from the viewpoint that there is more than enough for you. So you don't have a consciousness of lack, right? You will be in a consciousness of abundance. Remember, it's psychological, because psychologically you're going to act from that and you're going to manifest it through your character and your behavior. But they fail to realize that these are effects and can come only when the cause is found. And as we've already talked, the cause is in our thinking. And our thoughts create our character, and our character manifests our lives and our destiny. Those who will give no attention to the world without will seek only to ascertain the truth will look only for wisdom will find that this wisdom will unfold and disclose the source of all power, that it will manifest in thought and purpose, which will create the external conditions desired. This truth will find expression in noble purpose and courageous action. Create ideals only. Give no thought to external conditions. Now, this doesn't mean to completely ignore what's going on around you. It just means not to let it interfere with your thoughts towards higher things. Acknowledge it, accept it, but don't think too much upon it. Keep moving forward and growing in your life. Give no thought to external conditions. Make the world within beautiful and opulent, and the world without will express and manifest the conditions which you have within. You will come into a realization of your power to create ideals, and these ideals will be projected into the world of effects. For instance, a man is in debt. He will be continually thinking about the debt, concentrating on it, and as thoughts are causes, the result is that he not only fastens the debt closer to him, but actually creates more debt. He is putting the great law of attraction into operation with the usual and inevitable result. Loss leads to greater loss. And if you are in debt, acknowledge that you are in debt, but don't focus on being in debt. Focus on the solution. Focus on what's going to bring you more money and get you out of debt, which comes from service. Give service, give a product, give customer service, give something that is needed in the world. And all of this will take care of itself. But you need to focus on doing the thing and being the thing, giving the thing which is going to bring you the money you need to get out of it. So in turn, focus on the cause of getting out of debt, which is wealth, bringing money in, and the debt will take care of itself. Or situations and circumstances are situations and circumstances, but you do not need to let it dictate your thinking or what you're going to be thinking about next. Because if you're thinking about the loss, you're going to be creating more loss because that's where you're putting your focus. If you see something that is seemingly lacking, don't focus on the lack itself. Focus on the solution. Focus on, hey, you're abundant. You have abundance. You're in connection with infinite supply. Now you're going to use that connection in your thought process to get out of whatever negative situation you're in to create abundance. Remember, you can and will turn it around if you persist in thinking upon the solution, because thought is the cause. The external world will take care of itself. What then is the correct principle? Concentrate on the things you want, not on the things you don't want. Think of abundance. Idealize the methods and plans for putting the law of abundance into operation. Visualize the condition which the law of abundance creates. This will result in manifestation. And we just went over what you need to be thinking upon, right? Think upon the service you can give to your society to turn that situation around for you. Think about the solution. Focus mainly on the solution. If the law operates perfectly to bring about poverty, lack, and every form of limitation for those who are continually entertaining thoughts of lack and fear, it will operate with the same certainty to bring about conditions of abundance and opulence. For those who entertain thoughts of courage and power, this is a difficult problem for many. We are too anxious. We manifest anxiety, fear, distress. We want to do something. We want to help. We are like a child who has just planted a seed and every 15 minutes goes and stirs up the earth to see if it is growing. Of course, under such circumstances, the seed will never germinate, and yet this is exactly what many of us are doing in the mental world. Now, we need to attach that to what he was saying back here when it comes to the law of growth. We have to plant the ideal. We have to plant the seed of what it is that we want to manifest. We have to hold it there and let the growth process take place. So, like, again, back to this apple tree, the example we used earlier. When you plant the seed and you give that seed proper nourishment, that seed is going to grow. Same thing with your thought. Now, the proper nourishment of your thought is holding that thought, that ideal, steadily in mind, right? Holding on to that goal with focus and giving it emotion, giving it life, giving it vitality, getting emotional about it, but also having calmness, poise, patience, so you can let the universal law of growth, so to speak, of that thought seed to grow into the soil of the subconscious mind, which in turn will become your habitual mental attitude, will become a part of your character. You have to give it time and persist in the holding of the ideal in mind. We must plant the seed and leave it undisturbed. This does not mean that we are to sit down and do nothing. By no means. We will do more and better work than we have ever done before. New channels will constantly be provided. New doors will open. All that is necessary is to have an open mind. Be ready to act when the time comes. Thought force is the most powerful means of obtaining knowledge, and if concentrated on any subject will solve the problem. Nothing is beyond the power of human comprehension, but in order to harness thought force and make it do your bidding, work is required. As we said, the work is studying it, observing it, and applying the information that he is giving us. Remember that thought is the fire that creates the steam that turns the wheel of fortune, upon which your experiences depend. Ask yourself a few questions and then reverently await the response. Do you not now and then feel the self with you? Do you assert the self or do you follow the majority? Remember, the majorities are always led, they never lead. It was the majority that fought tooth and nail against the steam engine, the power loom, and every other advance or improvement ever suggested. For your exercise this week, visualize your friend. See him exactly as you last saw him. See the room, the furniture, recall the conversation. Now see his face, see it distinctly. Now talk to him about some subject of mutual interest. See his expression change. Watch him smile. Can you do this? All right, you can. Then arouse his interest. Tell him a story of adventure. See his eyes light up with the spirit of fun or excitement. Can you do all of this? If so, your imagination is good. You are making excellent progress. So this week he has us visualizing the last conversation that we had with our anybody. And we're going to use the last conversation, the one that I mentioned earlier in the first half of this video, the conversation I had with one of my best friends. We were talking about consciousness. We'll visualize that. We'll most likely be visualizing that, some of it, just to get a recollection, right? Trying to remember the vivid imagery of that moment. But for the most part, we'll probably only do that for a couple minutes, like we did with the part prior, because we're going to be visualizing more of our lead position and doing the work necessary to fulfill that position. Because remember, we have to be at first in order to manifest it. And in all honesty, that probably is what we're going to continue focusing on most of the time during our meditation. Well, that is the end of this part. Mr. Wayne needs to eat. I am very, very hungry. And we didn't want to eat too much because we didn't want to just be burping all the time in the middle of this video. I respect you guys. I respect your time. And I want to give you the best that we can give with where we're at this current moment. Because we are very, very tired. And we are going to eat. and think and reflect on what we just read, and the building of the mental material and the blueprint that is necessary for the manifestation of our goals, so we could create the life that we want. Remember, your life is in your hands. It's not dependent upon what's going on in the world. Don't let the world dictate who you are as a person. You choose. You choose who you're going to be. You choose what you want to be. That is your power. And that is the freedom you have. Especially living here in America, you have the freedom to do and to be what it is that you want to do and to be. Now, we do have a set of roles here in America, obviously. Now, as citizens, we are choosing to abide by those rules and to respect other citizens in accordance with those rules. By all means, it's a phenomenal thing. That's a great thing. Now, as long as we're not overstepping somebody else, keep doing you. Do you. Be you. Go after that image. Go after that goal. What other choice do you have? Remember, this is your life. You're only having this experience once. At least as this person. I believe life goes on. I believe once we leave these bodies, we go on and take on another form. How can it be otherwise if we're part of this universal mind, and if everything is created inside and out of the spirit, and the spirit was never born, nor can it ever die, and if we're made in its image, and that just means that after we leave these bodies, we don't die. We just move on into a new form. I know I mentioned angels and demons. They are very real. Now, human vibration, human consciousness, we are vibrating at this plane. We know, for example, we're going to use a color spectrum, or we see specific colors because the way our human eyes are designed. Our eyes are designed to only see a specific spectrum of colors, but we know other colors exist. We know X-rays exist, for example, but yet we can't see X-rays through our eyes itself. So we know there are realities happening around us that our physical senses cannot take up. For example, for those of you watching this that may be very consciously conscientious beings, you can sense a presence. I know I've been in a room and I was able to sense a presence. I knew something was there, right? I just knew something was there, even though I couldn't physically see it. You could sense it, right? There's just a spiritual knowing of knowing there's a certain energy in the room. Now that energy is a very real thing. And same thing again, back to angels and demons, right? There are beings. I know there are beings around us that exist on a higher plane, and they're vibrating at a different frequency. Just because we can't see them does not mean that they are not there around us or present. With that being said, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching. We have our practice for this week, and we'll go ahead and do that, and we will see you for week 8 next Wednesday, and we will also be here with more results. And speaking of with our meditations, I haven't really talked about how much easier they're getting. We could sit there for a very, very long period of time. Now it's still around 20 minutes, around when my legs start to go to sleep, but it's getting very easy to relax, to get into the moment, and to really just visualize around our goals, around the things that we want to achieve. Or you have to keep practicing it. The more you practice and the more you do it, the better you will get at it, and the more effective and efficient you'll get at it. Meditation is much, much more challenging than what a lot of people realize it is. Remember, it really truly is about self-control. Being able to sit in a position that could be very, very uncomfortable, and to stay relaxed mentally in an uncomfortable physical position, I'm telling you, it'll do wonders when it comes to your self-control, especially with dealing with difficult situations. I see happening in my life, which is very, very needed and very much needed, especially when you're in a leadership role. When you look at those that are very, very successful, what do they say? Stress tolerance, being able to handle and manage stress that involves a very high level of mental capacity, obviously, and you can train that. You could train that by sitting there in lotus and being in an uncomfortable situation that you put yourself in. Remember, as we talked about, when it comes to building strength physically, you're legitimately putting your body through uncomfortable physical situations, because you will adapt under stress. Your strength will adapt under stress. Your body will adapt under stress. It's the exact same thing with mental training and in sitting in a lotus. You are putting your mind and your body in a stressful situation, and you are conscientiously focused on relaxing in an uncomfortable position. It's very powerful. It's very simple. Very powerful, very simple. That being said, let's go ahead and end it. Have a great night. I love you. I will see you next week.